Disclaimer. We are not medical professionals or specialists. This is merely a conversation of our opinions. We are not contradicting anyone's personal views or values. This is our conversation. Topics such as suicide and abuse may also be discussed. Viewers' discretion is advised.
Hey Stigma Busters, welcome to our 4th episode of the Living Beyond the Horizon podcast, Posh Mentality. Unfortunately, Zoe and Nina are unable to make it today, but we do have a special guest, introducing Matthew.
Yeah, welcome, Matthew. So would you like to introduce yourself? How are you today?
Yeah, sure. I'm Matthew Ng. I'm in grade 8 and I'm doing great today. I woke up early. I had great breakfast of eggs and chicken, and now came here and I'm doing a podcast.
Awesome, glad to have you
Awesome.
here. All right, so remember our biopsychosocial podcast about 2 episodes ago, and then how we talked about specifically the biology. So today we're going to be talking about social connection, so the social aspect of mental health.
So when we think about the social aspect, it's, what it sounds like. It's how our social circles, how our family, our friends, different individuals, right, definitely impact our likelihood of, well, not just our likelihood of developing a mental disorder, but just our mental health in general. So like the social part of our biopsychosocial model could be our peer group, school, family circumstances, trauma, work, socioeconomic status, so like your financial status, your grief, interpersonal relationships, and your culture. Or just not only just like your individual culture, but just the culture of, just the culture of, I want to say the world. I hope that makes sense. Like in terms of how standards are, expectations, unspoken rules, and just stuff like that as well. And yeah, I think this is very important. I think this is probably one of the aspects of our mental health that we pay attention to the most, right? Because it's like we're constantly surrounded by people. We're constantly surrounded by schools, circumstances, and all of that. So yeah, I think I find myself really lucky to have like a group of friends, especially in high school. In elementary school, it wasn't that great, but like just in a high school. And I feel like it did take a huge part in my mental health because I did feel validated. I felt supported even through a lot of like tough times as well. So yeah, that's definitely my take on it. What about you guys?
For me, elementary school was like really bad. My group of friends were like, they were the type to sort of like cut you out if you weren't constantly being with them, if you weren't constantly hanging out with them, and they would have a lot of inside jokes, and they would do it a lot on purpose to make others feel left out. And so during elementary, I was constantly feeling like very excluded, and I had like really negative social experiences. But now during high school, I've got like strong foundations and strong friendships with the people, and I'm feeling so much better. And going to that social experiences sort of part, there are 2 types of social experiences that people can have. Of course, there are some ones that are in the sort of gray area, but we'll just be talking about the 2 main ones. So that's protective social experiences and negative social experiences. Protective social experiences are good for your mental health. They boost your mental health. They make you feel good about yourself. They make you feel confident. And then negative social experiences are adverse social experiences. They make you feel down. It could be like a bully or toxic relationships, being classified as so-called weird, constantly having to go through these hurdles in like these social circles would count as negative social experiences.
Yeah, that is definitely a really big thing. And being able to distinguish one for another is really important too. I find, especially now, we are mindful, right, of what we say, but I also feel like there's a lot of roasting humor, right, especially within friends. And we wouldn't consider ourselves bullies, but like, if actually we took a step back and we're just like, oh yeah, we're just kidding, but you don't understand the power of your words. You never do, especially when you can't feel what the other person's feeling or what they're going through that day. So I definitely think being able to distinguish between a negative social not just an experience but a group that you have currently, and a protective one, like a positive one that actually accepts you, is a huge thing. And I felt like for me in when I was in elementary, I wasn't able to do that, right? I was kind of just like, is maybe this is something everyone's going through, maybe this is only for a little while, or you know why, maybe this isn't, or maybe I deserve what they're doing. And it's right, it's obviously a learning experience, right? But of course you have to be able to like know your worth as well. Being put in these situations where you're putting a negative social experience can be lasting as well, right? Because there's certain things that stick, right? In terms of self-esteem and all of that don't easily go away either. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then sometimes it's not like just that one time and then it sticks. Sometimes it happens over and over and over again. And then you sort of just have that always in the back of your mind.
Yeah, definitely. Matthew, did you have a take on this? An experience that you had, or an example of a protective social experience or a negative social
Yeah,
experience?
I do. I can't stress enough how much friends are like important. So you can have those social experiences. If you feel down, you need those group of people to talk to release your stress, and
Definitely.
like people you can joke around with, like, to connect with other people. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess
Hmm.
friends are a big part of social experiences. They protect you. Yeah.
Yeah. And with like those like joking with friends and everything, I feel like if you find that it's harder for you to differentiate between when somebody's like joking or they're actually saying it, or you're just super afraid that they're actually not joking, I feel like it's very important to tell others where your boundaries are and then what you feel comfortable with and when the line has been crossed. Because
Yeah.
yeah, they have to, as your friends, they should be valuing your comfortability with what they are doing and support you through that.
I think that, and just being able to resolve conflict. Because a lot of the times conflict is inevitable, right? Because you're not always going to agree on things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So being able to be transparent and being able to look past the situation and look at it as more like, okay, so now I know what they're comfortable and what they're not comfortable with. Let's take that into account. Let's take that seriously. I often find that we can, because as a friend, like, so especially when you're a close friend, you don't want to call them out for something because you're scared it's going to ruin the friendship, right? And stuff
Mhm.
like that. But being transparent is so important. You have to be like, okay, I'm not going to be awkward about this. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Like, this is what I'm not comfortable with. And the reason I'm telling you this straight up is because I know that you're a good friend and I want to stay your friend, right?
Mhm.
And stuff like that
Yeah.
as well. So I think that's something
They
we
also
definitely can incorporate. Yeah. Yeah, Matthew.
Yeah, you also need to know what type of friends you want. There's some of your friends that like take control of you and they like take advantage of you. And when you need to know when you're being used so that you can find better friends. And like if you can
Mhm.
be transparent to them, but if they don't listen to you, then you have to know when to like move on.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
think, like, finding a new group of friends is such a hard thing to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have a friend, and like in right now in high school, and she was with a group of friends, and they weren't a very good peer group, right? Especially with like
Mhm.
substance abuse and toxic relationships, and just it wasn't a supportive environment either. And I like it came to the point where she wasn't able to voice her opinion without like her friends being very offended, and it turns into this argument that becomes unrepairable. And
Mhm.
she found herself, right, she wasn't able to have that same relationship with like other people, with other friends. So she found herself just sitting alone by the lockers and stuff like that, right? And then I remember one day I looked at her and I was so sad because I've seen her for the past like 3 weeks just sitting by the lockers by herself, right? She went from like this big group of friends to by herself, right? And then I think one of the things I'm really proud of, though, especially for her, despite like leaving such a big group, like it wasn't something that like I don't know what she actually felt, but the fact that she was able to leave the situation before it like like it really took a toll on her is such a strong thing to do. Like I know like especially like in grade 7 and stuff, right? Like even though you're such an I was in an uncomfortable position, I wouldn't leave. I was like, okay, they're my friends now. Who am I supposed to hang out with now?
Yeah.
Right? Like I kind of sacrificed my like I don't know reputation for like being with a group that's actually like motivating me, that's allowing me to grow, not degrading me. And I think that's something very strong of her to do. And then I invited her to our friend group, and it's just it's hard, right? Because you can't just sometimes it's awkward to go up to someone and be like, "Hi, can I be your friend? Can I just like come into your friend group?" Right? So then I was kind of just like, you know what? I'm very happy that I'm one of her close friends now. So that's one of the things too. It's just inclusivity and just things like that. It, those things need to be normalized more too now. It's huh.
Yeah, I definitely feel like many of us, if not like all of us, have gone through like relationships that had become toxic or just, it's not like a place where you can be comfortable with your so called friends, or that you can
Mhm.
trust them to any extent. And sometimes it gets to that point where where like nobody's gonna change. You can't deal with it anymore, and you have to leave, or you have to tell that person that like it's just not working out, and like it's hard,
No,
and sometimes it'll leave you without like that big group of people to hang out with. But I feel like your mental health and your well-being should always take place above like a reputation or with who
it
you
should be a
hang out with.
priority. Yeah.
Yeah, it should always be a priority, because the definition of friends, I feel like it's been like the minimum has been lowered so much until it's just something of like somebody that you can hang out with, but it should be somebody that you can trust, somebody that respects you, somebody that supports your well-being and can be there
Exactly.
for you.
Like a
Yeah.
good friend shouldn't be an exception. It should be an expectation.
hmm And
I
then,
mean,
with this all of this social relationship health and like promoting healthy relationships and stuff, is like the quality of friendships. You always have to like sort of sometimes take a step back and see where you're at with that friend, whether you need to like maybe spend more time with them or solve a problem, like look around, see who has common interests with you,
exactly.
like all of those things.
Exactly. No, I definitely agree, right? And a lot of it is easier said than done, right? Just like, but then again, like I'd rather be alone than be with a group of friends that's digging my own grave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're not helping me get any higher. So I'd rather be alone,
Yeah. And I
right?
also totally get those people that are completely afraid to like step out of that zone, step out of that friend group, because it is hard, especially like for example, since we're all in high school, like for example, like in high school there are a lot of cliques, even though people are like, oh no, we don't have that many cliques. No, there are cliques
There are.
everywhere. It may not be like specifically the athletic kids or like the pretty girls or like the smart people. It might not necessarily be that, but there are definitely groups of friends, and like especially if like you break off with a group during like 10th grade or 11th grade, when everybody is already so in with their cliques and so close with those people in their groups, it gets so much harder to try to build relationships after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So like I have a thing like when you're hanging out with your friends, you also need to know their background, and if like feeling down or if they're acting a certain way, you shouldn't be so quick to judge them, because like in their
right.
house they could have some like family issues and they just don't want to talk about it. So you shouldn't be more like understanding, I guess.
Yes,
Definitely.
definitely.
and it's always like you need to look past a situation too, right? You can't just be like, this person's I'm gonna base this person's entire personality on this one circumstance, right?
Yeah, you can't do that.
No, you can't just look at. I think for humans, right? We're often very quick to make quick judgments, right? I think that's the human part of all of us, but acting on those where we're like, you know what, I'm not gonna hang out with this person because of this one incident, right? And this is stuff like that. Like I definitely like 100% agree with Matthew in terms of like you can't be judgmental of that because you only see one side of the situation.
They might just be having a bad day.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah,
And being there for that
definitely.
person. Yeah, and just giving them a chance. Right? And growing comfortable with this person, not giving your all. Right? You're not gonna like
Hmm.
throw your entire self at them, but just like grow with them, right? Grow the comfort, become more comfortable with them and then start sharing things when you know that you trust this person, when you know what they want, not what they want to hear, but like, what makes sense in your relationship and stuff. I get that point because I know like I had a friend who she she's I think in grade 8, 9-ish. She was very what's it called again? In another school, but she's very academically motivated,
Hmm.
and it kind of drove her away from her relationships. And then she kind of took a step back and she was like, okay, now I need to focus more on my relationships. But then that kind of turned around with having, like she had more quantity of friends rather than quality. And
Mm.
and then at that point, like whenever she'd meet someone after a long time, she'd share things with them which should be shared later in a relationship, right? When you know you can trust this person. And she ended up sharing something with someone she met after, like, I don't know, years after talking to them once. And then this person ended up, telling everyone else about her, right? And it's kind of just like, take a step back, not rushing into relationships either, right? Same thing of not being judgmental, but then also just taking a step back and just being like, okay, let me just get to know you first before I kind of become vulnerable as well. Like it doesn't have to be like a year before you become vulnerable, but just giving yourself time, just like breathe in the situation and stuff like that as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, adding to your quantity over quality of friends, I feel like if
Mhm.
you have a quantity of friends, you're just like there. No one really notices you because they probably have better friends, like best friends. So like you can talk to them, but you're not gonna really like hang out with them, I guess, in my experience. But then when we
Oh,
have like close friends, then we usually hang out with them, talk with them. I feel like friends, we call everyone friends. I feel like people you talk to, but then your real friends are people who like actually hang out with you.
Mhm.
definitely.
Definitely. And I feel like it can also be like the opposite of what you said. It's like you have a lot of friends, you like say that you're very popular. Everybody knows you and everybody like they like working with you, they like talking with you, they like hanging out with you. But if it actually came to a scenario where you needed them or they needed someone to talk
What they
to,
do there for you.
they wouldn't ever think about you. Like you would just completely leave their mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
And
yeah.
it's just so important to know where you stand in a friendship with somebody. Take in how they feel about your relationship, how you feel about it, what you two do, how you can build a stronger relationship and friendship with
Definitely.
them. Like there are
Yeah.
so many factors and it's so very, very hard and it can be very taxing on our mental
Yeah.
health too.
And I think one of the point you guys made about um when when it comes to like the quality of your friend and having that same type of like support where if you give the support, you know what, you expect the other person to give you the same support. It should not be a one-way thing where you're just there on standby, right? Like
Yeah.
of course they might have better friends, but if you're in a situation where your worth is like your worth is not valued, right? Your words are not valued, you're not valued, then like staying you could be like hanging out with people who are so much better. right? But sometimes it comes to the case where they're not there, or those better people are not there, right? And you feel stuck as well. And that's the case for the same friend, right? She she didn't she wasn't really valued by her friends. Like whenever they need, exactly, right? The same thing is like whenever they needed her, they would go to her, but when she needed them, they were never there for her, right? And I think that's something that it's very hurtful, especially when like that's like your entire group of friends. It's
Yeah,
very, very lonely feeling. Yeah.
and sometimes if that like keeps happening over and over again, then that person will just, they'll get sick of trying to reach out for help
Exactly.
and trying to reach out to people that can help her, even though like they know that like they can help him or her, but like they just no.
And it just leaves such a sour taste in your mouth too. It's just not just about the person, but just the idea of like becoming vulnerable again with friends, but giving it your all and not getting it back,
Yeah.
right? Like, I know it sounds selfish to be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna give, but I'm giving because of you. But I also want to be supported as well. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
oh, it's sad. It's sad when we go through these things.
It's a hard topic.
It is a very hard topic, but it should be
Yeah.
talked about. I think so too. I feel like it's something that's often dismissed and laughed about. Same thing with roasting humor, right? Like someone goes like, "Yeah, I'm kidding," and you're just like, "You have to be okay with it, not them."
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And it's
And
like, huh, you know what?
yeah. So remember to look around for people that you can trust and then that they can trust you so that it's like it's not one-sided and it's very healthy and it's strong. That you may
Definitely.
have similar interests, you may not, but being able to take that next step for a better relationship.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. All right. So, Martha, did you have anything else to add or?
Yeah, just like at the end of the day, you should have those friends that like know your background, could support you, that you could talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Just
Yeah.
getting to know the person better, right? It makes such a big, big, big difference, right? Especially like because they're gonna tell you things that they're only comfortable with telling you, and you're just gonna have to like be like, okay.
Yeah.
It's always important just to be respectful, right? Whatever the
Oh,
situation is.
Yeah.
and as a little challenge that you might want to do, tell a close friend how much you appreciate them after all you've been through. Or, strike up a conversation with someone in your class or at your work who seems quiet, you know?
Someone like you've never spoken to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too. I was thinking of doing that, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so nervous. I'm just gonna look like a weird. Well, no, it's a big thing. All right, so thank you, Matthew, for coming over. Very, very, really, really appreciate it. And yeah, all right, so just to sign out, remember to be mindful and respectful of others. Strive for inclusivity and uniting people together because you will never fully know how your words and your relationship really affect the different individuals in your life.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of our podcast. Stigma Busters out.